our body itself will inevitably change, okay? Regardless of what we want, how we, we want it to be, want it to change. So that's the three Buddhist, truth. So let me just recap. The first one is interconnectedness. Everything that you see is interconnected. It means that my happiness depending on your friends, your neighbor, your enemy, your teachers, people who give you a lot of pleasure and also a hard time. You are in the middle of a relationship. That's what the Buddhist, the ultimate truth looks like. And then second one is, everything is impermanent. So whatever you are, whenever you have some kind of, attachment to something, it will inevitably change, and therefore you are bound to suffer. Okay? So being able to see that, realizing that things will change for the better or for worse. So whenever, if you are, having some kind of, bad time, horrible time, remember that this too will change, right? So whenever you are having the peak of your career, everything is going so well, then you say to yourself, what?
It will change.
You will change, okay? So keep that in mind. And the third one is selflessness. We think that we are independent island, isolated island, but that is not the case. And okay, that is the three things that I want all of you, especially my junior high school and high school students audience can remember that, so you can recite back to your Christian friends. Okay. Okay. And then speaking of Buddhist truth, what that means is that in order to be happy, our happiness is depending on other people, which means it's all about human relationships. Okay? What makes us, really, really happy is when we are having good relationship with people around you, especially, and the world around you. And so, even if you have a lot of money, you're a super rich guy, but nobody actually calls you at night, and nobody really were concerned, and nobody is really concerned about you. You are sick, and they don't really care about you. You don't feel like you are valued. Then what? It just doesn't mean anything too much. You don't feel that happy. So happiness also depends on having good relationship around you. So let me just give you an example. Like one of the lay member in my temple in New York, he really wanted to live in Manhattan. So he saved his a lot of money, and then finally his business was going really well. So finally he was able to buy a nice condo in Manhattan. Okay. So he was so excited and said, "Hey, Sinim, I'm finally, get to live in Upper West Side and all that." So he told me, all about this, and then, so I congratulated him, of course. And then, a couple of months later, he told me that, actually, I don't feel as happy. So I told him, why? What happened? And he said that, well, people in Manhattan, they think they know their life is so better or special or whatever. So like one time, he tried to he put his trash, the trash bag, outside his apartment door because he was going to pick that up and then drop it in the trash can later. But even after a couple of minutes later, a neighbor started knocking on the door and saying that you are not supposed to do this. According to our condo rule, you cannot do this, blah blah blah. And so what happened is whenever he rides an elevator, he is so afraid that he will, he's just praying every day that he will not bump into his own neighbor. So think about it, how horrible that feels, whenever you try to go inside, go to your own apartment, and you are fearful of your own neighbors. So it's the relationship that matters. Then, let me just go over what it is that we can do to make our relationship really happy and satisfied. Because I'm a college, professor, I every semester, by the end of every semester, student gets to evaluate my teachings, right? So I do get, student evaluation maybe 10 days after I send off all of their grades, basically. And then, student can, talk about, what they like and what they didn't like, and, all that. And then, after maybe 2 semesters or a year, into my teaching, I realized that the secret, a secret to have really good mark, good high score, I realized the way to make my student happy. Do you know what it is?
Great.
Oh, of course, giving them a good grade will be, but there is more to it than just giving them a good grade.
No, make them do the evaluation before they get the grades.
Well, I don't get to read it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I can only read it after getting sending off their yes.
To get to know them, to get to know their world as a human being, as a person.
Yes, that's an excellent question. So I try to do that.
Yeah.
That is, since I'm teaching in a small liberal college, my classroom, I have about 25 students or 20 students. So I try to individually meet them, get to know them, who they are. But there's other secret, more important.
Good relationship.
Yeah, having a good relationship, but there's more to it. Okay, let me tell you. Make them talk. Basically, have them give them a lot of opportunity to talk. You think that like giving an excellent lecture will make them happy. No, yes it is. Yes. Having really challenging, the giving really eloquent, lecture can also make them feel very happy. But at the same time, present them with a lot of really challenging questions and have them think about it and then get engaged and have them talk. In other words, students feel happier when they get to talk. Well, I was okay with that because it means that I don't have to talk. So it's very interesting. The harder I try to work, that is to prepare all of my lecture and then just have a full control of my lecture, and that is not gonna make them happy. Actually give them a lot of freedom and leeway, and that makes them happy. So what that means is that when we are having conversation with your friends, usually being able to talk, makes you happier. Giving your friends a lot of opportunity to talk. So one of the compassionate way to do is learn to listen. We pay a lot of money to go see psychotherapists, right? And what's the job of psychotherapists? They listen, right? You pay money, you pay money to them, and they will listen to you, right? They just listen to you. So think about that. Your friend, your friend, they don't need to pay you, but you will listen to them. But they will be They will be very grateful that their voice is heard, right? And so whenever you are having conversation, make sure that you ask some good questions, questions related to what they just said, So they are saying something, and then ask related questions, okay? So that's like one of the things. And then whenever, somebody is asking a question to you, and make sure you say, that's a very good question, right? Again, they are also valued. The questioner himself or herself, they are also valued, okay? That is very important. And then, because that means that you are interested in their lives, you are concerned about their lives, being asked, okay? And like one time, I was in some kind of college office club, and then one of the staff member, I just asked her, "How are you?" And then she said, "I'm so happy that you asked that question to me." All of a sudden, I feel like I'm an individual, not some kind of robot, working in a big office. And so, and another key issue is that if you are having a conversation with a whole bunch of other people, make sure that some of your friends who didn't get to talk, give them an opportunity to talk. You see what I mean? So if you see that the whole conversation is just centering around one particular individual, then what do you have to do? You have to make sure that everybody, other people can ask, get to talk. And how do you initiate that? by asking a good question. Okay? So just remember that. And I know that like some people become so self-involved that they will just end up talking about himself or herself, a lot of time, Then sometimes you, if that happens, then make sure that you ask questions so the conversation can divert to somebody else's. Okay. And then another thing that we have to remember is that sometimes while we are having a conversation, we insert our own voice. So we ended up talking about ourselves, So we are having a conversation, but I wanted to say something. So I say something, right? And then after that, make sure that you return to the person who just, who finished his or her, conversation just before me. Do you know what I'm saying? So that they get to continue, Even if you are, interjecting something, make sure that the other person can also have the conversation, have they can carry. Okay, lastly, I just want to talk about the why we are so critical sometimes of other people. I talked about this in my own book, but when you are super critical of somebody, it is perhaps because you yourself may have the same fault within you. Do you understand? When you are critical of somebody, and it is because your own faults are reflected, in them, and so you see that fault, and then you ended up criticizing that. So if somebody says, "Oh, I don't like you because you're so impatient," it means what? You're impatient. Why is that? Because if you do not have that element, that sort of annoying aspect of yourself, then you will not be able to catch it. It will not bother you so much. You just whatever, and then you just can walk away. However, if somebody is so obsessed with that, critical that aspect, critical aspect about that person, it is perhaps because you yourself are having that kind of problems. Do you know like Jewel, the singer? Yeah, she has this wonderful, beautiful song, and like Pieces of You. Do you know that song? Yeah, like it is basically says, huh? Yeah, like what that is. So like in that song, what she said is basically, you don't like fat people because the fat people is pieces of you. You don't like, gay and lesbian people because, you might have that pieces of you. Do you understand? You don't like Jewish people because you might have pieces of you. It ended up being a self-hatred, projected upon other people. So if you find some of your friend is pointing out, faults of, hey, I don't like you because you have this problem, and most likely you can say right back to you, right back at you. Okay. All right, and then. I do have a lot of things to talk about, but I don't know what to say. Okay, I'm gonna just do classic, my talk to high school students because, I know that we have some. We do have the Korean American high school students, and as you know, the Korean American community, there are I would say 97% conservative evangelical Christians. So they are constantly bombarded with Christian evangelical message, and then they feel their own identity is shaken all the time, threatened.